Hello and welcome to another ASMR video by Just Listen, your destination for relaxation. Lately, I've been thinking about the best tap sound I can make. What constitutes a good tap sound? And what ruins a tap sound? So I've been listening to some of my favorite ASM artists. And I think the best tap sound I've heard from Jojo ASMR. And he has a lot of techniques that he uses to make a tap. Sometimes he taps with his fingers, and sometimes he makes a sort of sound using his mouth, but I class that as a tap as well because it has a similar kind of quality to it. You may hear Ziggy in the background. He's calling out because it's getting late in the morning and he's woken up, the sun's come up and he's looking for some attention. But anyway, the best tap sounds have a sort of hollow sound to them, slightly hollow, and also a very low frequency and a very definite sort of crack to it, or a very strong attack in the low register, a very sudden attack that is, it's like you can get that sound by tapping on a phone screen with your fingernails. And the things that ruin it are a scratch sound, which is like a soft attack and a bit of high frequency that you don't necessarily want. But the softness of the attack tends to counteract the quality of the tapping sound. Now, when I talk about tapping, you might imagine a single tap by itself, as if that is the unit by which we measure how good a tapping sound is in ASMR. But that's only part of the picture, because it's also the rhythm, the frequency, and the clustering effect of the tapping or the popping or whatever you want to call it. A lot of the time when we put tapping in an ASMR video, it'll be sort of fast tapping with the fingers, which creates its own rhythm. If you're tapping with all 5 fingers, including the thumb, it'll make an irregular 5-beat rhythm. And the different fingers will make a different sound, and each finger will have its own different volume. Some will be louder than others, and that creates an effect. There are some other taps or pops that we do which have a more regular rhythm or a more uniform volume, such as without vocalizing or breathing. I can make that as regular as I want. And it's the same action using my tongue on the roof of my mouth, which produces every instance of the tap sound. Some taps use a different action. For example, if I went da-ga, 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 that would be two different actions alternating. Like if you play the guitar and you have a pick, you pick downwards and you pick upwards in alternate fashion. The downstroke has a particular sound which is different from the upstroke. The other thing is, there are certain effects that you can get when you're doing a lot of tapping sounds or popping sounds, where you can sweep the frequencies, much like a wah-wah pedal. If you were playing guitar, a wah-wah pedal has the effect of boosting certain frequencies. As you push the pedal down, it boosts higher and higher frequencies of the signal. And so as you sweep back and forth with the wah-wah pedal, you get a wah, sort of sound, which is like the sound of opening and closing your mouth while you make a sound inside your mouth. This frequency sweep can also be done when you're tapping on an object. As you move the position of your hand around the object, you'll find some parts of it make a different frequency, or make a higher or a lower sound. Like if I run my finger along a drum head, parts towards the side of the drum will make a higher frequency sound to parts in the middle of the drum. And so when you rub your finger from the middle towards the side, especially if the microphone is positioned on the side and you move your finger towards the microphone, that makes a kind of sound. That whooshing sound, that frequency sweeping, can have a desirable effect in ASMR. There's something about that sweeping sound which sort of gets stuck in your ear, and it feels as though something is happening really close to your head. The desirable feelings we get from ASMR, I think, have something to do with the perception of something happening very close to your head or ears. It gives you the illusion of physical contact. is why ASMR is traditionally made by putting a microphone very close to the sound source. When you put the microphone very close to the sound source, it gives the effect as though the sound source is extremely close to your ears. Of course, this isn't universally true. There are some ASM artists who have the microphone further away, but they still manage to achieve a sound that puts you in the action and gives you the feeling like you are in the middle of what's happening. Although most ASMR is made in a very quiet environment so as to avoid background noise, some ASMR is made outdoors or in a place that has background noise, typically pleasant background noise, such as in a rural area, the sound of animals, birds, chickens in the background, or ocean waves, wind, rain, sounds that are somewhat predictable and which contrast with the close-up ASMR sounds, in that it doesn't feel like you are being directly affected by this chicken sound because it's off in the distance. You don't feel as though there's a chicken coming close to your ear and clucking. The sound of wind blowing against a microphone can sometimes be pleasant in ASMR, although there's a point at which it becomes unpleasant. Similarly, the sound of handling a microphone can sometimes be unpleasant, but at the same time, if done with moderation, it can have a pleasant effect. So, when we make ASMR, there's always a constant value judgment weighing up. Is this sound pleasant? Is it sounding pleasant in one context or another context? Is it too much? Am I too close to the microphone? Am I too far away from the microphone? Is this stereo effect effective, or does it sound too forced? And so, when you make these decisions, it can be helpful to have input from somebody else who appreciates ASMR and who has a particular set of tastes. It is possible, when you spend a lot of time trying different things, experimenting and looking for variety, you can kind of fatigue yourself to a point where you don't know what sounds good anymore. This is true of ASMR, but it's also true when you're making music or making art. You do get better with practice, but it's also possible to just be working so hard at it that you lose sight of what works and what you're going for. When that happens, I usually listen to some ASMR that really speaks to me or that sounds really good. And then I think about what it is that works. There is a technical side to it, but then if you get too caught up in the technicality of it, sometimes you don't feel it anymore. So you got to go back, listen to somebody else's ASMR and feel it. And then if you need to analyze the technique, sometimes I listen to ASMR that's really good, but I don't know why. I don't know why I like it. Because maybe they're doing something which traditionally you wouldn't do. But nevertheless, it seems to work. And that's really cool. It's especially funny or even interesting if you go to a lot of trouble or you spend some money on tools that you think you need in order to get a particular sound or a particular effect. And then you find out that somebody else is getting that effect without having spent the money. I usually find this is true of guitar playing, that we get into the idea that you need a particular kind of guitar or amp to get a certain sound, and then you find somebody doing it with really the wrong kind of gear. You shouldn't be able to do it with that gear. And that just goes to show that it comes from you, not really from the equipment that you use. Although using good equipment can be helpful, the creation doesn't really come from the type of equipment you use. Some of the best ASMR that I've heard is just recorded on a little Tascam recording device, and it's just things like little brushes against the microphones. That's really good ASMR. I wish I could shout out the artist that I heard do that first, but I don't remember. So while you can get a lot of knowledge about technically what works and theory of why things work, I think the best creators of ASMR or of art in general aren't necessarily the people who have the knowledge, but they're the people who feel it the most. Because when you feel it, you have that direct answer of, does it work or not? Is this what I want? When you appreciate it firsthand, you can then produce it because you have that judgment inside saying, this is the good stuff, this is really good. So you can home in on what you're going for and get there very efficiently without necessarily knowing how to do it beforehand. I think soon featuring Ziggy, the Eclectus parrot. He's a really good boy, but lately he hasn't been getting as much attention as he would like because we've been busy. So he gets to fly around the room and do the things that he likes to do, but I think he would benefit a little bit from being able to sit on my shoulder and participate in another ASMR video by Just Listen. He's a very quiet, placid bird, and he's quite content to just sit on your shoulder and spend time with you. So thank you for listening to another rambling video about ASMR by Just Listen, your destination for relaxation. Catch you next time.